Welcome back to the Belleville Sports Club Social Media Accounts, episode 38 of the Lancer Conversation. We're nearing the end of most of our spring sports season. I got a special episode here joined by the assistant athletic director and also assistant coach for baseball and football, Todd Blomberg. Thanks for taking time to join me.
Well, thanks for having me, Stephen. It's a pleasure.
For you, I know not a lot of people may know you because you're in the assistant AD. I know a lot of people know Mr. Larson, so go ahead and take a second to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Todd Blomberg. I've been at Belleville East for a long time. I started here in 1993 and kind of coached a lot of sports until about 9 years ago. The opportunity came to move to the athletic director's office, and I was lucky enough to be hired as the assistant athletic director, where kind of do a lot of stuff behind the scenes for the sports and I'm very fortunate that I get to go watch a lot of the other sports too, so that's been a big bonus.
So for you, I know you've had a long career as a Belleville East Lancer, as you mentioned, so before we start talking about that, I kind of want to start off with you because I know you played baseball and played here at Belleville East. But before that, I want to talk about your childhood growing up.
Sure.
I know, how'd you start playing baseball? How'd you fall in love with the game?
So, very young age, I was very lucky. My dad was very athletic, and when I was young, he put me in all kinds of sports, soccer, baseball, basketball. And so he coached me first out of the gate when I first started playing. And I was lucky enough that he was the kind of dad who wanted to just go out and play catch all the time. Whenever I had asked, he never said no. And I just kind of fell in love with it. It's a game that's very mentally challenging, but it's also just fun to be outside and be with your friends. And that's how it really started for me.
For you growing up, who were some of those guys you watched on TV and who were some of your favorite players that you looked up to?
So I'm old. Remember, you said that. So a lot of people might not know some of these names, but Pete Rose was a big name. When I was growing up, he was the all-time hits leader, and he got in a little trouble later. But growing up, he was a guy. I was a big Pittsburgh Pirate fan, so Willie Stargell, Dave Parker. That era for me was really the golden time.
How did you end up being a Pirates fan?
So my parents and their families are from the Pittsburgh area.
Okay.
My dad's military, but whenever we went home, it was always to the Pittsburgh area. So I've grown up with being a Pittsburgh fan, Steelers, Pirates, my whole life.
Okay, but I know you're an Ole Miss fan when it comes to college, so how did that end up happening?
So, funny story, I didn't really follow Ole Miss much, but both my daughters ended up going there. So, when they went there, of course, we went down to some football games, some baseball games, some basketball games, and it's just a place you fall in love with.
Yeah.
It's great to go visit, and it was fun, and it was really good to my daughters, and so I am now officially an Ole Miss fan.
So, high school, you played baseball at Belleville East, and I remember there's a Belleville News Democrat article that quoted you as an outstanding player. So, what were those 4 years like for you at Belleville East?
Very lucky to be part of some really great teams. We had really good players. Our head coach, Larry Patton, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
He just passed away recently, but we were very good, to be honest, not patting ourselves on the back, but we were just a bunch of guys that loved playing baseball. We went to the state tournament 3 years in a row. They didn't have the semifinal game back then. We would always win our first game and lose our second game, which means we would have been playing for third place.
Yes.
And we never got a chance to do that, unfortunately. But those are some great memories and great friendships still from those teams.
What were those trips like up going to the state championship and playing in those games?
It was surreal. Like my sophomore year, I didn't know any better. I just thought, okay, we're just going to go play baseball. And then you get up there and you see the caliber of teams you're playing and just the fans and just how much attention there is to it. It's kind of overwhelming at first. And by our third time back, the third year in a row, it was funny. One of the grounds crew was like, man, you guys are always back here. And it was really kind of funny. And we just were like, well, we just made it back. It was just something we did.
Was there any special moments that you remember from those 4 years at East playing?
Yeah, there was a couple. I remember winning the sectional championship to go to state. Each of those years was just phenomenal. I remember the final out each time. And I remember the dog piles it was funny, our shortstop made a play. We had a dog pile at shortstop. Our pitcher struck out a guy to end the game, and we had a dog pile at pitcher's mound. It was just, those are the things I remember.
So after high school, what did you do after? Did you play college ball?
I did. I went to Millikan University in Decatur, and I played football and baseball there for 4 years. I ended up getting injured for my senior year, so I didn't get to finish up playing baseball. I still went to the practices and the games, but I didn't get to play. And my football season, my senior year, was kind of hit or miss. I was recovering, and I dressed out for games. I didn't get to really play much my senior year, but it was just fantastic being a part of those programs.
So after hanging up the cleats, you ended up coming to coaching here at East. How did that happen? come to fruition?
Yeah, so my first job out of Milliken actually took me to Georgia. So I was in Georgia for 2 years coaching, and the athletic director at Belleville East called me in 1993 and said, hey, we're having a lot of people retire. Would you be interested in coming back? And I was like, come home? You mean come home? Yes. So I immediately said yes. I put my letter of resignation in down in Georgia. I was been dating a girl for almost 2 full years, and I asked her to marry me, and she came up with me, and we've been here ever since.
Yeah. For you, coaching, was that always kind of a thought in the back of your head, or was it kind of something that came after you played?
So I've always been a sports guy, and a lot of people tell you they get into teaching because they love and want to reach. I got into teaching to coach, just to be honest. It's something I've always wanted to do. It's something I'm passionate about. It's something I really enjoy. And so that was the main reason I got into teaching.
So you end up getting your first head coach job in 2021 for baseball. You end up taking over. What was it like that first year coaching? Because I know there's kind of, I would say, a little bit of pressure on you for for taking over 2 very good coaches in the past and a very good program has a rich history.
Yeah, so Coach Patton and Coach Schutzenhofer didn't do me any favors by the bar they set really high. But it's honestly, it's overwhelming. You think you may know what it takes to be a head coach, but there's so many things that people don't know that go on behind the scenes, behind the doors, just kind of all the emails and just everything that goes with it. It can be overwhelming. Luckily, I had great help. I had great assistance, great support here at the school. The first year we did fine. We had a good year, and then my third year we made it to the state tournament, and we haven't made it back, but we've won some regionals, and we still are a very successful baseball program.
Just looking at your head coaching history, you guys never had a losing record during your years, which shows you how good of a team you guys had all those years.
Yeah, I was very lucky to have very talented players and very good teams. It's to the point where baseball now for a lot of kids is a year-round sport, and that was starting to happen at the end of when I was the head coach. And you can really tell the difference where guys are very much more developed now in their baseball abilities.
That 2003 state team, you guys go 29-9. Tell me about that year.
Oh, it was a fantastic year. It was so much fun. Before you knew it, all of a sudden we're in the playoffs, and you just feel like you just can't lose. I mean, we had 2 really good pitchers. Our junior, Andy Tillotson, was the player of the year for the area. We had several all-conference players, guys that played multiple sports. We had a great soccer player on the team that played on the infield, and we had a wrestler. And it was just a great group of guys that were just competitive.
You look at, also, again, as I just talked about, no losing season. Also, you guys put up 4 regional titles. Your career record was a career win percentage of .628. I mean, just look at that. I mean, it shows you what kind of program baseball's been to Belleville East.
Yeah, it's a very well-established program. There's high expectations with it. Kids know that. And if they don't know it, they're kind of introduced to it early, their freshman year, that this is a program. I mean, you look at our facilities, you've seen them with the turf field and our stadium seating and our team room and our just everything is first class. And right now, that there couldn't be a better person to lead that program than Coach Wiggs. He sets the bar every day for those kids, and they try to live up to it, which is fantastic.
Talk about 2005, one of your guys' players, Chad Wood, passes away. What was that like? 'Cause I know that had to be heartbreaking for outcome you probably never imagined.
You never expect anything like that to happen. That's still to this day probably the hardest day of my teaching, coaching career. One of the assistant principals came up in the middle of the day and told me what happened, that he passed away on his way to school, and the rest was kind of a blur. We met with the team, we got all the players out. They voted, they wanted to play the next day in his honor, and so we literally played the next day. And it's the most memorable game ever to me. And if you ask Coach Wiggs, he kind of says the same thing. We were down 5-0 in the 5th inning, and Chad's number was 5.
Yeah.
And we ended up winning. We ended up winning the game, and on a walk-off in the bottom of the 7th, and it was the news was here. The amount of students that came out to watch the game to support the players was phenomenal. It's one of the best and worst memories of my career.
Yeah, I mean that dugout had to be pretty tough, just playing really a day after, as you said.
Yeah, it was rough. We put his jersey on a hanger in the dugout, and the kids, there wasn't a lot of energy.
Yeah.
It was tough to get them going, but they found a way. It was phenomenal. Chad was definitely with us that day for sure.
So kind of talk about some of your favorite games coaching as a head coach. Do you have any favorites over the years?
Oh, there's for sure. There's the super sectional championship in that 2003 year when our pitcher had to strike out a University of Illinois kid for us to win. It was 1-0 with a guy on second base with a University of Illinois commit up, and our kid comes up and strikes him out. That was a phenomenal game. The Chad Wood game was still the tops for me. That was the tops for me. We some of the games that we lost were also memorable, not just the wins. There's some memorable losses where just the kids battled and played hard and it just didn't go our way. But there's a lot of them.
Was there any like crazy games, like extra inning games that go on forever? Any high scoring games that you remember?
So Belleville West, we actually played them on 2 different days. That we ended up playing 18 innings.
Yeah.
We played 9 innings on one day, it still hadn't finished, and we had to come back and we played 9 innings before we finished the other day. And that was phenomenal, just trying to figure out, okay, who's going to pitch next? Because you play over 2 games. That's over 2 games in 2 days. So that was a phenomenal game.
So we go 2015, as you hinted at earlier, named the assistant AD for Belleville East. How did that come to fruition?
So the jobs were posted, and I knew that it was a good time for me to apply. I've been around East for a long time at that point. I've kind of done a little bit of everything. I've been a baseball coach, a boys basketball coach, a girls basketball coach. I helped with swimming when they needed somebody for swimming. I've done baseball, so I figured my daughters played softball, so I've been around a lot of sports. And so I applied, and luckily I was chosen. And it's been just an unbelievable ride with Mr. Larson for the last 9 years.
So after that, you resigned from your head coaching spot, keeping an assistant coach's spot. What made that decision? I know you're probably pretty busy, which kind of attributed to that.
Yeah, so the supervision that's involved with being the assistant AD is rough, and being a head coach with that, and also still coaching football, it was just not going to happen. My daughters at the time, my youngest daughter was playing softball. And so I knew if I stayed the head baseball coach, I'd never get to see her play. Yeah. And so I kind of made the decision, I still really want to stay with football, and I'll give up baseball knowing I probably have a chance to come back and help at some point. Yeah. And that's exactly how it's been.
So after that, former player of yours, Ryan Wiggs, takes over as the coach. What was your first impression when that came out?
Well, I actually got to be part of the decision, which is phenomenal. I got to sit in on the interview, and I asked if when he was going to be when they said, okay, he's going to be our head coach, I asked if I could tell him, because I wanted to be the one to break the news to him. Because, like you said, he was a former player. I couldn't be more proud of the kid, of how, where he was in high school to where he became an adult, and where he is now. And I just thought it would really be a really cool full circle moment if I got to tell him he was the new head coach at Belleville East.
What was it like for you? Because you just mentioned, player yours, he's taken all those steps. I mean, you got to be pretty happy, pretty proud of him now to become one of your coworkers.
Couldn't be more proud of him. He is way better at being the head coach at Belleville East than I ever was. He is really good at what he does. He relates to the players well. His message to the players is always great. He challenges the players every day in good, positive ways. The program could not be in better hands, and we are lucky to have him.
How is Coach Wiggs as a player coaching him?
About like he is. He's just a quiet, do your work, no funny business, just nose to the grindstone, blue collar, just a guy that got things done. He was a really good player. His talent, and he'll be the first to tell you this, so I'm not saying anything he wouldn't say. His talent wasn't over the top good. Yeah. He was talented, but it was his work ethic and his ability to outwork people that really made him successful.
Speaking of coaches, I also want to talk about Larry Patton. That you played under him. What was your relationship like with him?
So when you played for Coach Patton, it was a relationship of coach-player for sure. And then I was fortunate enough to get to be around and get to know Coach Patton on a personal level outside of baseball. And he is one of the most caring, generous men I've ever known. He is free with his time for you. He is great with his advice if you need it. He is patient. He was very forthright and honest with you. And he was very supportive. And I was very lucky to get to be very close with Coach Patton.
Was there any stories with him that you like to share that you think should be worth sharing? Because I know he was a great guy.
Yes, a great guy. I remember when I got the head coaching job, I called him and I told him, and he couldn't have been happier. And I asked him if I could take him to lunch so I could just talk with him.
Yeah.
And so we went out to lunch, and that lunch was one invaluable tidbit after another. It was just one thing after another about, how to treat your players, how to go about being the head coach at Belleville East, and how to relate with parents. And it was just a very special hour-and-a-half lunch that I'll never forget.
Also, I want to talk about football because I know that's another big part of you as well. When did you become part of the football coach staff? How did that happen?
So when I got hired here as a teacher in 1993, it was to become a football coach also. And so I started right away with football in 1993 as a varsity assistant. And I've just literally stayed in that same spot the whole time. I never really, I never really wanted to be the head football coach. I just really liked what I do as the assistant. It's way easier than being the head coach, to be honest. But it's still challenging, and it's still a lot of fun, and it's still something I'm very passionate about. And it's both football. I'm gonna miss football and baseball quite a bit when I'm no longer part of the staff. Yeah, and for you, this past football team had to be pretty fun for you to coach them because first off, we get a home playoff game, then we win the playoff game, and then we played pretty well in the unfortunate loss on the road. It had to be a lot of fun to coach those boys for your final year too. Stephen, it was phenomenal. It was a great way to end my football coaching career. Yeah. It was phenomenal. We haven't been to the second round in a long time, and this group of kids this year was just so much fun to coach and to be around, and it was a great way for them to go out, the seniors especially, and I feel very fortunate to have been a part of it. What's some of your favorite football coaching moments? Any fun games that you remember? Oh man, there's an overtime game against Alton when Coach Funk was the head coach. That was phenomenal. We played we beat East St. Louis one year at East St. Louis. It was a night game, and then when we were kind of talking as a team, they were so mad they turned off the lights, and it was pitch dark in the stadium. It was hilarious. We had our phones out trying to get to that was fun. But beating them, there's been a lot of really good games. The playoff game this year at home came out of nowhere. I don't think anybody could have projected us to have won like that. I was confident we'd win, but not in the way we did. That was just unbelievable. There's been a lot. And speaking of this football season as well, you were honored before that football game versus Alton at home. What was it like for you to be on that field before the coin toss? Well, nobody told me it was happening, which is good. Which is good because I probably wouldn't have shown up because I don't like that stuff. I don't like it. I don't like to be the center of attention. I like the kids to be the center of attention. But I was very humbled. Coach Larson did a great job organizing that. It was even made more special. Aaron Kremel, our trainer, had both my daughters on FaceTime. And so they were FaceTiming the whole thing. And it's a great memory that I will cherish. And speak of your parents are there. Yeah. What have they meant to you over these years? I know they had probably been a big part of you in your life. Nobody can have the career I've had without great support from their parents or their family. So I told them the other day how much I appreciate their unconditional support and their love, and my career would be nowhere near what it is without their support. They still come to almost every home football game. My dad comes to the home baseball games and drives the people around in the cart. We're a sports family, and they have been nothing but supportive. And also talk about the relationships with them, but also about the relationships with the teachers, coaches, and players. How much have they meant to you over these years? Yeah, that's going to be biggest thing. A big void in my life after I'm not here anymore is the daily relationships with the teachers here at East, the fellow coaches, people like you who I've seen a lot this year and last year when you took over the broadcasting and grew that to something that's been phenomenal. The players, Khalil Waller, the guys like that, the guys on the baseball team, the Dawson Verniers, the guys that you just love seeing every day that you're not going to see anymore, that's going to be a big void. I know probably a big void for you as well is going to be Mr. Larson. You two in that athletic office. I consider you guys as a dynamic duo. What about you? I feel like you two are just fit perfect. We fill each other's gaps very well. Let's just say that. we both have our strengths and weaknesses, and luckily our strengths and weaknesses support each other. And literally the last 9 years have been my best 9 at Belleville East. They have been the most fun, and that's really because of Coach Larson and how much he makes that office a family atmosphere.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like work. I don't feel like I come to work with him. I feel like two good buddies just hang out in the office and get things done is what it feels like. Luckily I can still go visit him. I won't see him necessarily on the daily basis, but he's not going anywhere. I'll be in the area still. So I'll still go maybe bug him at his new job.
There you go. So we'll talk about Lancer baseball now, sitting at a record of 13-10 coming into this weekend. And I still was thinking about the other day, started off 0-4. Kind of feels like it's been a long time since then, because you guys have been turning things around since a rough first start. Yeah,
rough first start. Things weren't going real well. Luckily, we have a really good group of young men who just, took to heart what Coach Wiggs and the other coaches, what we tell them, just, hey, guys, keep working. And then we've seen improvement. We told them after our Freeburg game, guys, we're getting better. You have to just trust the process. And some of our losses are really tight losses, tight games. And we just are one hit away or just a good inning away from winning some of those games. So we are right there. I like where we're at. I like what the direction we're going. We're still getting better. We don't need to be at our best right now. We need to be at our best in a couple weeks. So as long as we're working to get there, we're going to be okay, I feel.
Yeah, you just talk about that close losses. There's only been really one game, that SLU High game, where you guys have been really out of
it.
Everything else, you've been right there to that last inning. And it's against good teams, too. It's not like you're playing cupcakes. You're playing very competitive ball clubs.
Right, and that's the message we keep telling the kids. Just keep believing. We're getting better. We're just, 1 or 2 hits away. We're doing fine. The biggest thing, don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. Just keep staying positive, and things will start to go our way, because the kids work hard. They're a good group of kids. They work hard. They listen to what we say, and it's fun.
Had 2 tough shutouts against O'Fallon, 4-0 and 1-0. I say it's pretty tough to hit against those 2 pitchers they threw in the mound, 2.50 ERA and a 1.60 ERA. I mean, that's where you got to go against the Southwestern Conference, those guys like that.
Yeah, it's not easy in our conference. And we've told them all along that our conference pitching is the best pitching we'll face. And we just need to find ways, right? We just need to find ways to get on base, to get around the bases, and score some runs.
Once again, the pitching staff again this year has been phenomenal. I mean, it's kept you guys in games. It's won you games. What's it like to have those guys ready in the dugout bullpen to go in and get you guys out and keep in the game?
It's a big relief knowing we have Dawson and Tommy and Ty and just the whole group of them. Collectively, that go out and they just do their job, and the guys behind them make plays, and we're in every game because of our pitching.
Yeah.
And so that gives us a chance. So we just got to get our offense straightened out a little bit, and we'll be okay.
Junior Tommy Krokowski, you just mentioned, pretty solid at hitting, but he's starting to get a lot better on that mound. From last year to this year, it's been remarkable. What have you seen from him the last 2 years?
Same. He's dynamic, and he's become a conference ace for sure. Yeah. He's a lot bigger and stronger. Last year, he was a tall kid, but he was still a little lanky. He's really worked hard, put on a little muscle, gotten a lot stronger, and he's really worked at being a pitcher. I know he goes over and gets lessons, and he's really become one of the elite pitchers in the area.
Look at Mount Vernon at Busch Stadium. It'll be another trip for you at Busch Stadium. I mean, it's always great to play there. It's been pretty special for you, probably.
So great. Yes, it's so fun. We started that back a while ago as a fundraiser, and luckily it's kept into the program, and we haven't gotten rid of it, thank goodness. But the first couple times it's amazing, and now it's as the more I've gone, it's more about watching the players react to being on the field at Busch Stadium. It's pretty special, and I'm glad we're doing it.
For you, what do you think's the biggest key to success to pull out our win against Mount Vernon, go 2-0 against them on the year?
Yeah, so I feel that we need to continue pitching, and we got to get some timely hits. We got to get some guys on base, and guys need to get some hits when we can score them.
Finish a few more questions left here. As you come in your last few weeks at Belleville East, what has Belleville East meant to you?
Oh my gosh.
It's a pretty big question. That's why I saved it to the end for a reason.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. Belleville East it means a lot. Not only was I a player here, and I graduated from here, so it's special in that sense. But then I've worked here for 33 years. My wife worked here. My daughter's kind of raised here. I remember my oldest daughter was about 4 weeks old, and we brought her to a basketball game. And she's sitting in her little car seat watching a basketball game. And my daughters were here at all kinds of events. And then they went to school here, and they graduated from here. And so this place is very special, just not only for me, but for my family. But the relationships I've made here with fellow teachers and students and former students is something that I wish everybody could experience.
What's one thing you always remember or take away from Belleville East when it's all done in a few weeks?
I will always remember how much Belleville East took care of me. The people here have accepted me, in spite of all my faults. They've taken me in. They've made me feel like part of the group. And this place is just a place I always feel welcome, and I always feel safe.
Well, Coach, I just want to say thank you for everything you've done for me. It's been awesome getting to know you these past few years, and I mean, it's been awesome. Seriously, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate everything you've done. I
appreciate that, but you're modest. You have done more for Belleville East Athletics in the last 2 years than I think you could ever even imagine. What you have done with the broadcast club and how you've covered our sports has changed how this place works. I don't know if you know that, but you are as much of a part of Belleville East Athletics than any coach or any athlete. So from all of us, we want to thank you for what you've done.
Thank you, Coach. Thanks for taking time to join me.
You bet. Thank